As a peak performance coach, I always get the same questions. Why do some people, when they're dealt with a rejection after rejection, they handle it with such ease and grace and realize their dreams? And other people, once they have one rejection, they just pack it up and go home. And why do some people, when they have chaos in their life, have such inner peace? And there's other people that are so stressed. And then why do some people have such great energy every day and I feel so drained? Well, to answer those questions, let me start by saying you have talent, you have talent, you have talent. Well, you have talent. We all have talent. We all have talent. But some people have emotions which push those talents down and they never realize their potential. And other people have emotions which allow their talents to shine. And to explain this, I have this orange. Level 1 question. If I squeeze this orange, what comes out? Orange juice, right? Always orange juice, not grapefruit juice, not pineapple juice, always orange juice. Level 2 question. Why? Why does orange juice come out? Because that is what's inside. Level 3 question. What have you put inside? If you put in fear and negativity and doubt, that's what comes out when you get squeezed, because we all get squeezed. That's the human condition. But the most successful people, the happiest people, they put in peace of mind and joy and happiness. So when they get squeezed, that's the juice that comes out. But there's one juice, we might say one magical juice, one master emotion that leads to all these other great emotions like peace of mind, joy, happiness, confidence. Literally these emotions, this master emotion helps you to become the superhero of your life. And before I tell you what that master emotion is, let me tell you a story about my favorite superhero. And his name is Terry Fox. And Terry Fox grew up in Canada. And as a teenager, he was diagnosed with cancer. They had to remove his leg. And this is the late 1970s. And they fit him with an artificial leg. And he basically had to drag his leg as he walked. But that tragedy led to his mission. And his mission was to raise $1 for every Canadian citizen for cancer research and to create an awareness towards cancer. And to do that, he called it the Marathon of Hope. I love that, the Marathon of Hope. And he was going to walk from one side of the coast to the other, walking a marathon every day. That's 160 marathons. I can't even do a half a marathon, and he was going to walk 160 marathons, and he did. He walked 14 miles in the morning. He'd take a break. His best friend and his brother were following him in a van. He'd walk 12 miles in the afternoon. It didn't matter if it rained, it snowed, heat of day, Terry would finish his marathon. And he walked 3,000 miles, dragging his leg on that pavement. How could he do that? That's like impossible. That's unfathomable. That's just incredible. How could he do that? And to answer that question, it really relates to the other question, what's the master emotion? Because they're interconnected. Terry Fox walked 3,000 miles because he had purpose-driven toughness. His orange was filled with purpose. Purpose is the master emotion. Most people don't think purpose is an emotion, but it is. Most people think purpose is an outcome, like my purpose is to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. But purpose is also an emotion. Because we say, I have a sense of purpose, a sense of purpose. I feel purposeful, full of purpose. And in my research, what I've discovered is people that are full of purpose have amazing energy, have great confidence, can handle rejection after rejection. Think about this. Think about the entrepreneur who developed a device and they think that device is going to change the world, but they get one rejection after another, but they keep going because they have a sense of purpose. Think about the doctor that faces death and disease every day, day in and day out, but they keep going because they feel purposeful. Think about the parent that is so tired, but they keep going and going and taking their son or daughter to piano practice, choir practice, batting practice, because their sense of purpose is to raise an amazing child. And think about you. Think about a time when you felt a sense of purpose. I know you had great energy, great joy, great confidence. Purpose is that magic juice, that amazing juice that can make us superheroes of our lives. And really, I'm not telling you anything that's not written, because if you look in the history books, it's written over and over again. My favorite story to illustrate this point is with the Wright brothers. And yes, I know you know the Wright brothers. They flew in 1903 at Kitty Hawk, and they flew the Wright Flyer for 18 seconds. But I don't think you know the entire story. I think you only know partially the whole story. And it's really because back then, the world was much different from what it is today. People thought flying was not possible. They thought it was really, really, really dangerous. And they thought the people that did it were crazy, and it was just a fad. And in fact, the local reporters of Dayton, Ohio said, oh, they only flew for 18 seconds. We're not going to report that. Now, if they flew for an hour, we would report that. And other reporters felt the same way. And the local townspeople would tell the Wright brothers, why are you wasting your time on that crazy hobby when you should be spending it on your successful bike-making business? But the brothers did not listen to the naysayers, right? Thankfully. But they also knew to change the world's opinion of aviation, they were going to have to keep the Wright Flyer up for longer periods of time, even perhaps an hour. But they also knew if they were going to do that, it was going to be very, very dangerous. In fact, the brothers said we could never fly again together because if we crashed and died, our dream would be gone. In fact, Orville crashed so bad, he couldn't fly. And to make matters worse, they would see one colleague after another colleague crash, sometimes have serious injury, and sometimes die. But Wilbur kept going. And he crashed, and he crashed, and he crashed, and he failed, and he failed, and he failed. But he had a few successes. And he kept that Wright Flyer up for longer periods of time. And then the tipping point came. 6 years later, the White House came calling. 1909, President Taft awarded the Wright brothers with the Gold Medal of Aviation. And then Wilbur Wright knew this would change the world's opinion of aviation. And now the world of aviation would be thrusted into the new century. And when they asked Wilbur Wright, why did you risk your life day in and day out? How did you have the courage to face your fear, to deal with death? How could you do that day in and day out? He simply said, I wanted to teach the world to fly. I wanted to teach the world to fly. Wilbur Wright is a superhero of aviation because he had purpose-driven toughness. His orange was filled with purpose, and he changed our civilization for the better. But what if your orange is empty, it's squashed, and you feel more like a zero than a hero? Well, I felt that. About 30 years ago, I was living on the island of Kauai, and it's a magical place. The birds are colorful, the fish are super colorful, there's waterfalls everywhere and spectacular. And if you know me, I love to play golf. The golf courses are magnificent. And I was living a life of fun and joy. I was living on paradise. And then something happened about 9 months later. I started feeling a sadness, like a hole, like a depression, an emptiness. And I had the epiphany of a lifetime, and it was this. Joy is never enough. Fun is never enough, because paradise without purpose is never paradise. Paradise without purpose could never be paradise. So I got off the island, I went back to school, got my PhD, and now I teach people to have purpose-driven lives. And that hole, that emptiness, is now filled with joy and happiness and peace. And I know a lot of you feel that same feeling. You have that emptiness, that hole, and you're searching for answers. And the answers are out there. And let me hopefully help you discover that answer. And I want to finish the Terry Fox story. Yes, Terry Fox walked 3,000 miles dragging his leg on the pavement. And he made it to Thunder Bay, 3/4 of the way of the Marathon of Hope, and he felt really, really sick. So he had to go to the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, they had the nation of Canada had an impromptu telethon in the name of Terry Fox. As you can imagine, Terry Fox became a media sensation. People fell in love with Terry Fox, fell in love with the Marathon of Hope, fell in love with what he was trying to do. And while I was in the hospital, the telethon raised $10 million in the name of Terry Fox. Terry Fox, his dream became a reality. The Marathon of Hope was a success, but unfortunately, he died a couple weeks later. But his legacy lives on, as the nation of Canada has erected statues of Terry throughout their country. But what the legacy of Terry Fox teaches us is that we can do amazing and wonderful things when we have purpose-driven toughness, when our orange is filled with purpose. And that's a timeless truth. In fact, 2,500 years ago, Patanjali wrote these words. And it's really the essence of Terry Fox and his life. When you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and great wonderful world. Dormant forces and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a far better person than you ever dreamt to be. He wrote that 2,500 years ago. That's a timeless truth. That's a human truth. That's an everlasting truth, my friends. So when you have purpose-driven toughness, you will become the person you always wanted to be. You will become the person you were meant to be. You will become the superhero of your life, and you will be unstoppable. Thank you.